It's Friday the 6th of October, and this upload is with regard to the dispute of theft and stolen property from 18 Rock Street, where I have been residing for the past 4 years, that is subject to a criminal investigation, and that is subject also to criminal activity as reported since 2020, 21, 22. So there are culprits, as I've highlighted in this circumstance, that have offended the developments from Brexit and from COVID of my humanitarianism that has provided Ukrainians in this circumstance with short-term protection and guides to living independently in County Kerry. All of those developments have arisen from my humanitarianism, and it's just astonishing that there are individuals down in 18 Rock Street that are, after they have stolen property, they have stolen the belongings, the baby items of my child have been stolen in this situation. And it's quite dangerous. It's a HAP accommodation arrangement. That means it's a housing assistance payment, and it's simply due to farm crime that's occurring in this community, crime against my nuptials. I'm a married mother and I'm a farm property owner, and in the meantime there are individuals that are after taking from my little baby boy not only his mother but his belongings. So these people are not safe for women and children that are being accommodated from the Ukraine, that as a consequence of my humanitarianism are now being put at risk because of ASBOs in society, also offending COVID as a consequence of my research and recovery of 20 years. So there's a very dangerous matter with these people causing theft and fraud. Not only have they offended the nuptials of the Church of the 30th of 3rd 2015, my apartment at 18 Rock Street has all my contents and belongings and the belongings of my baby boy and my creative intellectual property. Now, those bunch of keys were reported stolen, and they're still stolen, they're missing, they're gone. And there are people in that property now that have no right to be around that circumstance, as it is an investigation issue. And there are people not working with the proper legal matters that have arisen from my crime prevention that gave rise to Brexit. So it's a real serious situation if people think they're going to be disrespecting this matter with more filthy fraud issues and more identity issues. Those offending right protocol, first and foremost, have no right to be offending me. It's quite dangerous that I was ever offended in the first place in this little town, but unfortunately this little town has caused very big trouble, and I'm still trying to have the proper intelligent people address all these troubles. So those that are living independently in the Kerry area from the Ukraine might remind themselves how all of these circumstances have arisen. Those people that are at 18 Rock Street might be updated with regard to my royal titles, my royal names, and what legal matters I have with being a royal, and the issue of lay people being in or around near anywhere there has been theft or fraud or any corruption, as that is in the case of 18 Rock Street. So it would be advisable for anyone that's at that address to remove themselves and vacate themselves from the premises due to the nature of the criminal activity that I, as a royal mother, have been contending with. And that also regards the farm holdings, the private property of the nuptials of my husband and I, Richard McElligott, and I, Maria McElligott, on the 30th of the 3rd 2015. Now, if the Garda Síochána are benefiting from my crime prevention, the least they could do is prevent the crime that I'm tolerating. The keys to my apartment to be located. My child is not lawfully from my care, so my child has to be located as well. So those people that are responsible for causing problems due to their mental misunderstanding about their position and their place might be careful about their track record and what they owe the world and what their debt is to the nation for offending the constitution that they seemingly hold so dear. Those people that have such love for the Republican values and the constitution might start respecting the constitution. It's astounding. But anyway, in the meantime, I'm focused on how people are going to benefit from Brexit and COVID-19 that arose from my humanitarianism, and that has benefited many, and that has been offended at the same time by those that are deluding themselves regarding the nature of this entire farce. It's a charade. It's embarrassing for this country, this little island having so many troubles. It's really bad. So those people that are confusing themselves down in 18 Rock Street with my identity are on my farms, offending the nuptials of the 30th of the 3rd, 2015. Any politicians up in Dublin that have a debt to my name might be very careful about using the legislation that has come from me. It's not supported. I don't support fraud or corruption or theft from people. So there are huge entitlements that I have as a consequence of Brexit and COVID, and they're not negotiable with sex industry workers. Prostitution and the policies that have arisen from my professional portfolio are not permissible in any kind of arrangements to facilitate any more of the fraud that gave rise to Brexit. So just to make that clear, those matters that arose from my humanitarian endeavours between 2017 and 2019 that have been prepared since 2006 are not negotiable with individuals that have not the calibre quality to present themselves in a dignified fashion and honour their dues and their debts. They're an embarrassment to faith and family. They are not welcome near any of my property, and they have no right or remit to be renegotiating the politics or the policies that have arisen from the social reform and social justice that I initiated as a recovery advocate, humanitarian, and as a mother of unlawful actions. So those that aren't recognising Royal Protocol are facing a punishable crime. Punishable offence is incurred with the crimes against my royal titles. So the European Court of Human Rights, the European parliamentarians, you're being brought up to date with regard to the mental illnesses I'm being confronted with by individuals that can't read the law properly and that can't do their sums properly and that are insulting the field of education where I'm qualified. So this entire situation is embarrassing, and those at 18 Rock Street that are illegally near any of my property or whatever of my belongings or even my little boy's belongings, please be aware that you're pushing yourselves at risk causing crime against my royal titles. The private consultancy agency has no right to be issuing any correspondence to that address, and the Department of Heritage and the Housing, Heritage and Local Government, the illegal eviction, and the nonsense of private consultancy agencies interfering with a state arrangement. This issue doesn't evade the debt for damages to my tooth. That's quite dangerous. It's quite visible. It's very sore, and I'm healing it on my own. So the Department of Housing might be very careful about the tooth fairies of the little girls and boys that they're putting at risk, stealing from my legislation, COVID and Brexit. Those people that have my child illegally from my care are a liability to the healthcare services and service providers, and any of those mentally disturbed people thinking that they have right to be in my proximity are actually putting their children at risk. So those kindly at any proximity level with me illegally that have a debt owing or that have already been guilty of crimes against my good name are advised to remove themselves. Any items stolen from 18 Rock Street that belong in my person, in my place, in my positions, those that have stolen from 18 Rock Street are committing a crime that is punishable by law and Royal Protocol. So please understand, Brexit and COVID do not have my support for the crimes that are still being conducted. I have worked arduously for Brexit and COVID to come into existence, but I do not support it being associated with more corruption of ASBOs illegally in my proximity, exacerbating their debts that they owe me since 2005. So they are underpaying for legislation. They're living off legislation that they haven't paid for. That legislation is of creative intellectual property theft from me. So this entire situation is a disgrace. It's for the interests of the European Court of Human Rights. Local authorities or more local healthcare frauds, you're not welcome or safe offending me on behalf of ASBOs with mental health illness, confusing themselves with my property. This issue is for the interest also of China and the zero tolerance policies. There's crime occurring in County Kerry as usual, and we've already seen the consequence which led to Brexit and the consequence that led to COVID pandemic. So these people are not permitted in society. They are slanderers, they have foul mouths, and they are not welcome with the faith or the family. So in the best interest of the Gardaí and the Department of Justice, would they kindly do what is right? For once in the past 20 years, my child has been not my child has not been located. He is illegally from my care. So that's a missing child, and he's not even 8 years of age. So this situation is quite dangerous. The Department of Housing, that has to be compensated for. That's a beautiful tooth that's been damaged in cheap linoleum housing down in 18 Rock Street, where there is stolen property from me now as well. So in the best interests of the integrity and decency and respect of this country, creative intellectual property theft from 18 Rock Street by ASBOs trying to get onto Stacks Mountain of my portfolio are making their families really, really unsafe. So those mentally disturbed confusing themselves with my farmland and not paying their debts and exacerbating the corruption that they've caused prior to Brexit and COVID-19 might move very far away where they're already very unsafe. It's really not safe owing people money, and the money I'm owed is quite dangerous. And as for those living off the legislation or discussing my name illegally into fame are putting their children at risk. So anything that's coming from this situation in County Kerry is not negotiable with any industry that is offensive to women's bodies. Okay, so this is going on 20 years. European Court of Human Rights, there are people in County Kerry that aren't qualified. They've no right to discuss a lone married adult, and they have no right to discuss my farm holdings or the legislation that I'm responsible for. So those people that are stealing people's money are putting the ECB and the IMF integrity at risk as well. So I hope the ECB and IMF see how dangerous it is not to contact me with regard to stolen wealth from my fortunes that I have earned very, very fair and square. And all of that now, unfortunately, because of mental illness and this fraud of a situation by ASBOs in County Kerry that is exacerbating by the day, is putting the integrity of the World Health Organization, the United Nations, and all of the big establishments that uphold this country or this world, this planet. Those are the ones with the responsibility to ensure that we all play clean. But there are people after fouling up on the football pitches in County Kerry with dirty money that they have been spending from an innocent mother that they owe for the past 20 years. Now, how many people from the Ukraine living independently in County Kerry as a consequence of my humanitarianism consider that a safe idea? How do the United Nations feel about this situation? Is it safe to offend me? Is it safe to offend the Brexit and COVID that came from me? Is it safe to offend my baby boy? I'm wondering, do the United Nations think this is a safe situation? Is it safe stealing from a mother? Do you know what I mean? So this is a very dangerous matter that I'm waiting for a while now to have addressed. And the longer that it's not addressed, the darker the scar on the land where people are trespassing illegally on behalf of filth and fraud that have no access permission at all. So those that are putting their little girls and boys at risk on behalf of a land grabber from my portfolio, I have to say I have concerns for your mental health. So that's as much as I'll say for now. I think I've put it up on my Twitter page very clearly that it's only the local governing body of the Kerry County Council that has any right to do any maintenance checks. Any private consultancy agency that sends me any correspondence is committing a criminal act. So that's punishable by law. So I hope the Garda Síochána are working with the real information, and those that have offended Fernan or Royal Protocol of Fernan in the past and that are offending the Ukrainian arrangement in this country as a consequence of my humanitarianism, I really hope there's no one silly enough to be living off legislation and offending me. That legislation is 20 years in the making for my research and recovery, and those of intellectual property theft are not safe to be transacting any affairs or any business or any of professional conduct with it all. They're not credible, they're not qualified, and they do not have quality of character to be dignified and honest. So just a heads up to the European parliamentarians, those that are obstructing or offending Royal Protocol of my birthright, my birth names, my position and titles, those that are conducting crimes against the Constitution and the Church and my child since 2015 are not credible or creditworthy professionals or adults to be relating or relaying any transactions or circumstances with. They're not fit for purpose and they're not recognised by Royal Protocol. So this is with regard to all the crime experiencing. The politicians that came down from Dublin to County Kerry to cause more trouble are making themselves very unsafe in the kingdom. So as I am of Royal Protocol, I hope the politicians up in Dublin are able to read the law and do their sums and try for a moment, just once, try and do something properly. It's really embarrassing to people that are professional and qualified to have to tolerate ignorance and stupidity and incompetence by people that just don't do things properly. It's embarrassing. So the basic facts of this upload are: the local governing body of Kerry County Council are the only people that had the right to do any maintenance. They didn't. It was a private company that put paper at my door that was a legal act. So that's a problem, and there's a tooth that has to be compensated for. It's a sad sign of times, and it's not making people's homes safe. So Brexit now, as a consequence, and COVID, are at risk. It's a sad sign of the times.